Hello, my name is Bryce Tubbs. With me today is Melinda Harrison. She is an author, founder, and CEO at Melinda Harrison Incorporated. I cannot wait to have this conversation and really see what value and information and knowledge we can gain from this conversation today. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Melinda.
Delighted to be here, Bryce. Thanks for asking me.
Excellent. And before we go any further, for those watching, if you're watching this from any location that is outside of our free community, I just want to personally invite you inside. It's taken a tremendous amount of time and effort to cultivate such a positive group of people. So join us inside and watch that from here. So, Melinda, what was life like before you got into coaching? What was the catalyst that brought you into the space?
Well, it was a long time coming, actually. So I've had many evolutions of many careers. After I graduated from the University of Michigan and competed at the Olympics, it was, what am I going to do with my life? I believe in high performance, and I think that everything I do has to be at a really great level. And so I had many iterations of careers, some of them in corporations and some of them running my own business. But in 2012, 2013, after our last child, we have three, went off to college, I realized that it was time for me to really dive into my passion, which is coaching.
Yes. Now, let me ask this question. So what problem are people generally struggling with when they come and work with you?
Usually, my clients are the type of clients that have a desire to achieve, but are stuck. And that could be in career, it could be in their personal life, it could be in their relationships. To me, the ideal client is someone that wants to get unstuck, has a desire to get unstuck.
Can you talk about, so you mentioned kind of the Olympics. Can you talk about maybe what's one tip that you take from training and you apply to, just your coaching, either fit focus or your coaching with people, maybe some like cool things that you see crossover?
Sure. And that really is about what my book, Personal Next, is about. There's no finish line. That's the biggest thing I can say to people is there's no finish line until you die. And so every day you have a choice to whether you want to continue on a path or veer to another path. But understand that you're at choice and there's no finish line.
Why do you think a lot of people want there to be a finish line? Say
that question again.
Why do you think a lot of people view a finish line, like in their life, like, retirement or just done with things?
That's a great question, actually. I've never been asked that question. I think it's because society, we have these benchmarks that when you achieve something, you expect reward and you expect happiness. And so you put that finish line as that mark in the sand that says, I've done it and I should be happy. But what most people don't realize is that the process of getting to that finish line is only the step to the next finish line. And happiness really comes from the process you go through. It doesn't necessarily come when you achieve, because the next day you wake up and you go, what's next? And it can be very, very devastating for many people to realize that their whole existence has been focused on this one achievement. And then after it's done, it's like, well, what am I going to do next?
So I know this is what you coach on, but maybe to remedy that, do you set it up knowing they're going to be milestones and these are just things? Or is it more like you have to tell yourself, be happy while we're hitting each of these milestones, and the milestone itself is not the happiness?
Well, I think living a more processed life. So accepting that every day there are wins you can have and acknowledging those wins. We often tend to look for the negative, and there's a lot of psychological reasons why we look for the negative. Basically, it goes back to when we were on the savannah and we had to survive. And so you were constantly scanning all of your environment to make sure the saber-toothed tiger wasn't going to get you. Mm-hmm. But today, we have imaginary saber-toothed tigers. So we look for the negative, and it causes us to react in certain ways. And so, what was your question again? I got talking about my saber-toothed tiger.
It was basically, how I guess how the question has evolved is, how do we like either go against that programming?
Right.
Yeah, I guess basically that's what it came to now.
So I think that you have to look at every day, look at the dimensions of your life, and look at every day as an element of a win. And really consciously try and pull that out of yourself, so that when you have these major milestone accomplishments, and I mean, I've had lots of them in my life, competing at the Olympics, running a successful company, raising 3 children, having a 34 year successful marriage. We're still married, it's not over yet. All of those things are critical milestone achievements, but I think we have to accept that they're just moments in time. And building your self-worth on those moments does not work.
Yeah. Because then it just goes up and down, interesting.
Right. Yeah. So instead, I believe that we need to step back and build our worth on our values and how we use our strengths. And again, much more process orientated.
Yeah, that's a good point. What used to happen for me was, on the months that I make 20K, I'd be really high and I'd be, want to talk to everybody. And then once you don't, and you're like kind of go into hiding a little bit. So that's a really great point where you talk about, your values. Now, let me ask you this question. So, oftentimes when people talk about milestones, they talk about whether they hit them or they don't hit them. And the word, often comes up as like success, either success or it's not a success. Maybe what does the word success kind of mean to you nowadays?
I love success. I mean, I love, I play competitive golf. I, have lots of milestones that I believe are successful. So there's no negativity for me in the word success. It's understanding that success is built through everything I have done to create that success. So going back to you, for example, if you were a client of mine and you were talking about the highs and lows of the money that you earn, what I would challenge you to do is understand and go back and think about the steps you had to get to that 20K a month. What are the things that you did? And then assess yourself on those things. Don't assess yourself on the word success. So it goes back to the micro steps or the mini actions that you do every day that allows you to get to that success. And the judgment comes from those assessments of the micro steps.
Yeah, I actually noticed that, sometimes like you'll talk to people and you'll talk about, okay, cool, so I did this, and this today. And they'll go, but did you get the result? And oftentimes the people are always thinking, did you get the result, are the ones who are not necessarily the most content with their situation. Right. And that's a great point. That's what you're talking about in actions. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I have a model that I use. So, a lot of my research focused on athletes and how growing up in an athletic life influences how they view the world, and then what happens in that significant career transition. And, my model is really around comparative analysis, judgment, recognition, and approval. So we start with, as a child, being compared as an athlete to other athletes. And, you hear parents do it, you hear grandparents do it, you hear fans or people in the stands do it, other parents, siblings, man, you're faster, you're stronger, you're better. So what happens is, and it happens in all domains. It's just athletes. We can study athletes because they have a a mini career that can be very successful. So what happens when you grow up in an environment of comparative analysis? You start to compare. Because when you're a little kid, until you hear the word "you're better than," you don't necessarily think you're better than, you just are. And so, the original comparison comes with judgment. And then as you start to compare, you start judging yourself. So what happens? How do you get out of judgment? You either seek approval or desire recognition. And this was a huge chunk of information that I gained from my research. As an athlete, I know this because I lived that life. But to hear other athletes talk about the comparison aspect and the judgment aspect, especially when you're on the negative side of judgment. I'm disappointed in you. I'm, like you didn't win, i.e. you're not good enough. And we see that all the time. And it really does frame how you then, when you're older, how you view the world. And so you go back to this money issue and, I'm making more than I'm not making enough of. And so that's the judgment. How do you get out of that? You try and get approval from other people, or you seek recognition. You say, okay, you're okay. So it might be a friend saying, hey, it's okay, Bryce, you can do it next month. Or it might be, when you do succeed, it might be, wow, look at you. You're doing amazing. The recognition.
Interesting. So you know how I defeated that?
What's that?
Do you know how I defeated that?
How did you defeat that?
By putting the worth on how well I treat people.
Right. That's a value.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you think about, did I live my value of respect for others today? Then you move out of that.
So you do it on a daily basis. So like, do you have like a journal where you're like every single day you hit your goals based on your values?
So I carry my values in my purse, in my wallet actually, because I don't always carry my purse. And I check in with them. And I know the most important thing is I know when I'm in my lane, I know when I'm in my lane. But when I'm struggling, that's when I pull them out. So for you, if you're having a struggle day, then you can pull out your values and say, how did I respect somebody today? How did I help somebody today? And all of a sudden you can trigger the response to move away from that negative mindset towards the core of who you are.
Interesting. Kind of like having like a values checklist.
Yeah, exactly like that. When I, way back when, and with my clients, I actually make them do a checklist. Now, I know that, I know what my values are, and I work at them every day. And, it's how, I assess myself.
Let me ask you this question. So then so basically what I'm asking, right, is a lot of times people talk about journaling. They talk about journaling with some of their goals, and then you break it down to the activities you have to do in order to go hit those goals. Do you attach those values to those goals? Or are they like what you're doing now? Or is it based on how you can start hitting milestones in the future as well?
Well, so a good example is, I'm developing this 10 module, 40 lesson online program for athletes after sport. And it's really being developed for the athlete that can't afford personal one-on-one coaching. And so every day I'm working on this. It's all laid out. I'm now just working on getting ready to film it in the next 2 weeks. Um, and it's extensive. Like it goes soup to nuts on everything that I believe, based on my research, that an athlete needs to have awareness of to move from a personal best to a personal next. And so there are very, very specific goals around that. What am I going to say in this video? Is it going to be a slide? Is it going to be, there are goals that I have around that. But the overarching reason of why I'm doing this is because I believe athletes, and many others, but my passion is really for helping athletes. I believe athletes have an immense amount of potential. But if it only lives in their potential as an athlete, what they had as an athlete, then they too will live in the past. And so we need to pull them out of that athletic experience and teach them to take those great things and move it forward. And it's tough because you've been coached your whole life. So back to your question around the goals, am I meeting my objective of giving back because I had such a great experience in athletics? The value is giving back and really sharing information. And so, if I journaled around that, then that goes back to process. It's not getting the course, getting it out there. That'll be a great day. I mean, I've been working on this course for 2.5 years. I will celebrate that day. But it's the overarching reason of providing that resource, because our athletes can be our future leaders.
Yeah, like Alex Rodriguez and all the ones that really learn how to take that same focus and then apply it to like the real world too. That's cool.
But I mean, I'm talking about like our college athletes and our high school athletes, like the ones that are never going to make money, like Alex. And Alex is doing a great job. But Alex doesn't. I mean, he can be a CEO of an organization that he owns and runs and all of that stuff. But I'm talking about the swimmer or the tennis player or the football player or the basketball player that never is going to make a dime from, that really has to move on and find another career.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Those individuals have a deep-rooted set of skills that are so fantastic, but those skills have to be transferred to a real world. And an athletic world is not a real world.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So essentially, like they transition those skills, just like how you did, basically. Right. Yeah, that's cool. Let me ask you. So you kind of touched on the course. Where can people go to either learn more about you, or where can they go to follow along with what you have going on?
So certainly melindaharrison.com is my website, and my Instagram is Melinda Harrison. My LinkedIn is Harrison Melinda. I'm just starting to build an athlete community it's going to be at Personal Next on Instagram, and or reach out to me. I answer every one of my emails. Nice. Because I feel if someone takes the time to reach out to me, then goes back to that concept and value of respect.
Wow. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate learning from you and just getting a little bit more information about what you have going on and how you work. I really appreciate that.
Great. My pleasure to be here, and good luck to you.
Thank you. And, for those watching, we thoroughly hope that you found this valuable. Now, if you've been searching for a place where people actually support you, Oftentimes we are the average of the people we spend the most time with. And in these times when we're maybe not able to choose our environment as easily as we could before, and you might have people who are doubting your vision and your goals, come and join us inside this community. It's taken a very long time to find people who want to see each other succeed. So if that's you, go on ahead and click on the link either above or below. Join us inside the community right now. Now, hopefully you enjoyed watching this as much as we enjoyed creating it. Feel free to hit the share button so other people can get some great value as well. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in the next video. We're done recording in 3 and 2 and 1.